Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We are very excited tonight. This is our very first around the ramp. You see, I cannot even talk, so I'm so excited. Roundtable conversations. And before I welcome everyone, I want to introduce myself. I am Berenice Castillo, and I am the founder and CEO of MSAN. And tonight I have Casey, our wonderful VP, Corey Weathers, and also Kim from Independent. We were going to have another guest, Dr. Ingrid Herrera tonight, but she had an emergency this morning. So I'm sending her a lot of good vibes, prayers, and everybody's thoughts for Ingrid. Before going forward and start the awesome conversation, because let me tell you, it's going to be a great one. We have some awesome feedback that we have received from many military spouses. They really want to talk to us about. The reason why we did this is because we all know that our lifestyle is a little bit complicated. The lifestyle that we live brings a lot of challenges, no matter what. Without coronavirus, with coronavirus, no matter what. But now that we're adding this crisis into the lifestyle and how everything is changing, is making life a little bit more complicated. As military spouses, we know that we are the rock in the house. We're the one that make it happen. We're always in control. We're always making it happen somehow. Right now, the situation is preventing us from having that control or be able to fix things. And we're used to that. And I think that many of us are finding ourselves struggling what to do now, because this is not who we are, because we always have a plan A, B, and C, and we know what to do. Right now, we cannot even execute plan A. So because of all of this, MSAN decided to launch a campaign within MSAN to focus on this. How can we actually help our community? We want to have real conversations with fellow military spouses, with professionals that can give us the straight answer, to give us a real answer. Spouses want to hear that. We don't want to talk about complicated things or policy or political things, none of that. We want to talk the real stuff. And this is why we're doing this. We're going to be doing it every Thursday. We're going to be bringing different topics. And I hope that you guys can join us. We are preparing a safe place for you guys to vent, to talk, to ask questions, and to know that you are supported, because we are here for you. So for all the new military spouses that are watching us, this is who we are. This is our community, and this is what we do when we are dealing with challenges. So we got you. We will be taking care of you. If you need a mentor, just let us know. So before we keep going, I want to open the microphone to our guests so they can introduce themselves, say a little bit about themselves, and then we can go directly into the conversation. Thank you, ladies.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Kimberly, why don't you go first?
Sure. I am Kimberly Bacto, and I am the operations director of Independent. And I'm also an experienced yoga teacher. So that means that I've taught over 1,000 hours of yoga. And so Independent is on a mission to make wellness accessible and create opportunities for all military spouses to connect for inspiration and accountability and friendship. And so I'm really happy to be here tonight to talk about the things that on everybody's mind right now with all of this chaos that's happening in the world. So thank you so much for having me.
And I'm Corey Weathers, and I get to work really closely with everybody here on the screen with MSAN and being partnered with them, as well as Independent. If you guys attended the Independent Wellness Summit that came out last month, I've worked really closely with Kimberly, so I'm so excited to have her on here with us. I think it's a perfect match. So I am a military spouse myself. I'm also a professional counselor. So I work with military and first responder families. And I'm just really super passionate about getting through difficult things well. And I think that's kind of what the topic is about. And so I know it can go lots of different directions tonight, so we're going to see where it goes, but I'm really excited to just have the conversation. And I've been thinking all day about this mentoring idea that MSAN does so well and how important that is during especially a time like right now, when whether you are brand new to the military and this is like not what you were expecting your experience to be like, or whether you are a seasoned spouse who is maybe considered mentoring, there's so much that we can share and so much that we are here to help each other get through something that we're all going through at the same time. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Corey. Casey, you want to say something before we jump into it?
No, I think everybody's kind of covered it. I'm just really excited in general. Like, guys, I've been doing this MSAN thing for just over 2 years, and I know that the environment we have in our community is the best. And in it being the absolute best, being able to cover these bigger topics, knowing that there is this need now, and that we already fill a gap here with mentoring new spouses. Being able to fill this gap more so is so much more important now than ever, because even as a seasoned spouse, none of us really know what we're doing right now. We're kind of all relying on each other, and that sense of community is probably the best part. So I'm ready for whatever conversation is coming, because I know it's good.
Good.
So we did a poll, and the number one concern the military spouses had was their mental wellness. And, that raised a red flag. Like I said earlier, we all live most of the time in survival mode because there's no time for us to worry. There's no time for us to sit down and wonder. We're always on the go, and we're always planning and having everything ready. But what's going on right now is making our lives completely the opposite. We are homeschooling. Our spouses are working from home.
Our husbands too. Our husbands too.
We're dealing with volunteering. We're working. I mean, we got some parents that are doing homeschooling, and they're working at the same time, and their spouse is working. And then you have the pets, and everyone is at the house. And although you love your family and you love everyone, it comes a point that there's no sanity. There's no way for us to go somewhere and hide for 3 seconds and try to breathe, because everything is happening at once. And still feeling the responsibility that we have to keep it together and that we have to make it work. So for those spouses that are going through that, what is it that you guys recommend? So Kim, we can start with you.
Yeah, I recommend figuring out a way so that you can have some time to yourself. So that might mean waking up 15 minutes before you think your kids are going to wake up, so that you can maybe have some meditation or some quiet reading, or just that peaceful time in your day before all of the chaos erupts. And I also recommend having a lot of grace with yourself, because you talked about, okay, maybe the spouse is home, maybe the kids are home, the pets are there. It feels like maybe the walls are closing in, and you're still trying to get your responsibilities done if you are working from home, or maybe you feel like there's not a lot of structure to your day if all of your regular activities have been canceled and you're home without responsibilities. I think it's this dichotomy of people who now have more to do than ever and people who have almost nothing to do. And so it's like we're on either end of the stick. And so we're all trying to figure out how we're going to make it work for ourselves. But I think wherever you are, having a little bit of time to make peace for yourself and to find activities that bring you joy, those things are really important right now.
So it's okay to not be completely put together 24/7, and my house to be a wreck and my kids to be running a mess, and this dog is going to bark again at some point, because that's kind of what the dog does. It's okay to be like that. It's okay for this. I think knowing it's okay is the best part, right?
It's totally okay. It's that grace that you need to have with yourself, because you might have expectations of, I need to execute this perfect schedule. I saw when this all started, everybody had these color-coded schedules that they were going to execute with their kids. And I was feeling a little bit inadequate because I knew I wasn't going to get my teenager to comply with anything like that. And then a couple of days later, people were like, okay, that schedule's out the window. And I was like, phew, okay, I'm not the only one who isn't going to make this crazy schedule happen. And we just have to, adjust expectations for what we're doing. I do think that there needs to be some structure, and for people that's going to look different. For me, it means I'm getting dressed and putting on makeup every day. I might still have a messy bun or whatever, but for me, that means I'm ready for my day and I've done something for myself. But, other people might say, hey, I need to put my priorities somewhere else to feel like I'm ready for my day. So we need to decide individually what that is for ourselves and make sure that we're in at least some kind of routine, so it's not a free-for-all and we're just downward spiraling.
That's very true. That's great. Corey.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with everything Kimberly just said, and definitely would agree that we have to extend grace and lower those expectations. I went through everything that you just described, which probably means so many other people listening also went through that kind of self-shaming and what does this mean, and having expectations for myself. I also have a middle schooler and a high schooler. I did the same thing. I saw that chart and I was like, oh, that's just not even gonna happen, So, one of the things that I've been thinking about, Vernice, you were talking in the beginning about how, we usually are the ones that kind of hold everything together at the house, and then suddenly everybody's at the house, right? And so I've been thinking about how for many, not everybody, but for many spouses, if you worked from home, or if you were doing school from home, or maybe you're not working or in school and you're raising small children, in some ways your life hasn't changed too much, right? Your kids' school may have changed and their world is different. And then maybe your serving spouse, their world is different. And so everybody's home. But for you, maybe it's like, this is your home spot and this is what you did every day. And you were at home every day. And maybe you had those long chunks of time during nap time or during school time, right, Casey? So like in a way, for some of you, not everybody, but for some of you, your world hasn't changed too much, but everybody else's world has. And so you're kind of responding to everybody else kind of experiencing all this new stuff, right? And then you feel that sense of responsibility to help everybody get through it. And that feels like an extra burden. So I agree with what Kimberly is saying, that finding that time to yourself is so important. So I think a couple of tips that I've been thinking about is, one, I was working with a spouse earlier this week who said it really well, where she said, because I asked her, what are you doing to take care of yourself right now? Because her husband is deployed, and I know we might get to that here soon. But she said, I think for me right now, she said, it's about being a little bit more intentional with the small little chunks of time that I do have. And so she said, even going to the mailbox is not just going to the mailbox anymore. It is a little bit more intentional of like, on the way to the mailbox, am I going to intentionally take that deep breath and be present in myself and realize that walk to the mailbox may be a moment of self-care that normally wouldn't be a self-care thing. But right now it's more intentional, and that might be 60 seconds, or if you really want to go slowly to the mailbox, you can drag it out to 5 minutes if you need to, but it is being slow motion mailbox run. But I mean, I think those small intentional things have to be more purposeful, like Kimberly is talking about. And I think the second thing that I would say is I've been thinking about how this is very similar, or not exact, but I think it has similar qualities to a deployment. And there's things that we can learn and take from previous deployments that we can apply through what we're going through right now. And one in particular is, if you have been through a deployment before, and if you have not been through a deployment, you're going to look back on this experience and apply this to your future experiences in deployment. But when you go through a deployment as a spouse, there's like that beginning couple weeks where you're just kind of in shock, right? Where like your serving spouse has gone and things are different and you feel like there's a lot of weight on your shoulders to do it all. And this little chunk of time looks different for different people. Sometimes it's just a couple days. For some people, it's 2 weeks. We hope it's not a month or two, right? But we'll just say like it's on average about 2 weeks. And for about the first 2 weeks, like you lower your expectations. Maybe you're in pajamas a little bit more than usual. Maybe you let yourself have that ice cream, and you just kind of like allow yourself to adjust to a new normal, right? But then you kind of reach the end. Hopefully you're setting a goal for yourself where you're saying, okay, I'm going to give myself this long and no more, right? And I think that's a good idea to have a limit. But let's just say you get to the end of that 2 weeks and then you go, okay, I adjusted, I did my thing, I kind of lowered those expectations, but now what am I going to do for myself now moving forward? Because I can't be in my pajamas and not do any self-care and not reach any goals indefinitely. And so I think maybe, hopefully, some of us are starting to reach that 2 weeks, or maybe you have another week before you might reach that point where we can start going, okay, how do I now, the shock is wearing off. We're realizing this is going to take a little while. How do I now enter a new normal with some new goals? And like Kimberly's saying, some new structure and new routine.
Very true.
Go ahead, V. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was about to say, I'm the mailbox thing. It's like, I can't wait for the afternoon to run to the mailbox and no one is coming with me. So
Right.
that's great.
Even just stepping outside on that front porch, regardless of how cold it is for me, and I do have younger children, I can have a wide range now of children at home. This is a whole new world again. But Corey, the way you touched on this being like a deployment, such a good analogy. And it wasn't until you said it that I really thought about it. When my spouse first deployed the first time, I had 3 young kids at home, and I had to adjust to mom being the only one carrying the load, right? And now my spouse is home, but mom is still carrying a lot of the load because my spouse works still. So it didn't even click until you said it. And I was like, oh, this is like a deployment. All right, time to go put real clothes on today, guys. I got this. I'm back. But our whole world is kind of just adjusting to the new normal each time, because each moment as a military spouse becomes a new season sometimes for us, be it deployments or PCSing or anything like that. We go through a new normal and we readjust and we kind of restart, which is, you have a great analogy. I'm just saying.
Well, I think it helps you feel like maybe this is more normal than it's not, right? Or because we kind of have to trick our brains into that, because if we stay in this place of like, we've never been through this before and I don't know what to do and how to handle myself, I think we could all kind of lose our minds just a little bit. So you kind of have to find experiences in your life where maybe you've, when have you felt a little bit out of control before? When have you been in a place where things were really uncertain? When have you gone through an experience where there was fear and anxiety of the unknown, right? We've all been through, if it's not a deployment, there's been other times in our life that we've experienced a piece of that. And we can take what we've already been through and apply those lessons learned to us now, so that we don't have to feel like it's so new and it's so uncertain and it's so anxiety provoking that we just don't know how to get through it. I think that we're a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for.
Yep. And it's always great to have somebody else's perspective on things. I think that sometimes we drown in our own glass of water, and it takes someone else to come and tell us, yeah, it is pretty bad, but there's some good things out of it. Or there's something else that you can do differently so that you don't feel as overwhelmed. And I think that's one of the purposes of this. We need to see and hear what others are doing, what others are experiencing, how you're coping, because probably I'm not coping well enough, and how to learn from that. So, everything that you guys are saying is so true, according to even me just sitting down and listening, like, oh my God, like all of this makes so much sense, because a lot of the times I don't have that perspective. I don't see things in that way.
Yeah, it's so good to hear what everybody thinks and is feeling, so that we can get the other people's perspectives. And I think one thing that's really different from this than a deployment is that we don't have any estimated end date. And
Right.
so I think a lot of people are really struggling because there's no countdown. They're in a hurry for it to be over so that life can resume, but yet they don't have anything to look forward to. And I think that that makes a lot of people feel really hopeless and a little bit trapped. And so for me, what really helps is learning how to be present and finding what can I get excited about today, not next week, but today, what do I want to accomplish today? What is really beautiful today? So I try to go outside for at least 20 minutes every day, and spring is a beautiful time to do that because new blossoms are out every day, at least where I am. And so it's really nice to go out and observe that. But if you get stuck in the when's this going to end, when it, there's a little bit of panic that comes up. And so that's where you've really got to focus on right here, right now. And you can even use a mantra when you start to get agitated and say right here, right now with your breath to bring yourself back into the present moment. So you're not getting into that countdown phase, which doesn't work. I know the governor of my state, she's not one to say, okay, everything's canceled until June or school's canceled for the whole year. She's doing it by like 2 weeks at a time. And so I think a lot of people get hope up. Okay, the kids are going to go back to school April 13. And then she comes back and she's like, nope, end of April. And I'm like, it's not going to be the end of April. So
I love, Kimberly, that mantra that you were just talking about of being present. So powerful to just be present in today and not stress about even the end of the week. So I love that.
Well, I think a lot of what we're seeing in our community here is a lot of us do feel trapped. We're feeling trapped because we're under stay-at-home orders. We're under quarantine. We can't go and walk around a grocery store for 5 minutes, as some of us use as an excuse to escape from the children running through the house or anything like that. We're legitimately at home, and some of us are dealing with the unknown of work, and we're dealing with the unknown of, are the kids going back to school, and when are we going to move if we're going to move, and when's my spouse going to come home? We have so many unknowns that, we already know wellness is a big thing, and you guys being the leading ladies of the wellnessness for us. Wellnessness, yeah.
I like it. Let's use it.
Another direct Casey quoted again. But we know that feeling of trapped is more psychological right now than it is anything, right? Because we're not literally trapped. We can, run through the backyard screaming at the top of your lungs. That's what I did yesterday to de-stress myself. And I think talking about that feeling of trappedness is something that I know specifically we have a need for now within our little piece of the everywhereness. Yes, everywhereness too.
The one thing that really clicked for me was in my yoga practice, the very first week this was happening, that we stayed at home, was there's a pose called star pose. And all it is you're standing up, wide legs, wide arms. And the instructor said, take up all the space you need. And I found myself just smiling because I felt like my world got that much bigger just by taking a big pose in my body and repeating the positive affirmation to myself. So that's something you can try too if you start to feel like your world's getting really small.
Oh, I love that too, Kimberly. I'm getting so many tips from you. But it's a mental game, right?
Yeah.
It's a mental game. You could go back and read through Viktor Frankl and his book on surviving the Holocaust. Talk about trapped. And I'm not saying that to minimize our experience and what we're going through, but there's things that we can learn about what's going on in our minds and what we do to ourselves and what we tell ourselves. And so like Kimberly, you saying of you can be really big and have more space where you are, just in even changing your perspective on that. And like you were saying, Casey, like we do have the ability to go outside. We do have the ability, some places are more strict than other places. I know here at Leavenworth, Kansas, it's pretty strict. We're pretty much on lockdown here too. And so I think it's okay. First of all, some of you do feel trapped. I will say that. Some of you, we are an EFMP family. We have a son that not only has asthma, but had a flare up even this past week. And it was like, close all the doors, all the windows, and, really feel like we're just kind of doing the best that we can to protect our family. And I know there was somebody I saw in the comments that also is dealing with some autoimmune issues in their family. And so it really can feel trapping to those of you who are really being more guarded and safety conscious than maybe the average citizen is. And so I think that we can validate those of you first who, like there was one that I saw that is pregnant. And so she's staying home and her husband is going out. Like all of those are good reasons. And so I think going back to that mental mindset of being able to remind yourself that we get to make that choice, that you get to make that choice to take care of yourself, take care of your family, and make those good decisions. And that it's not something that's being done to you. It's something that you are choosing to do. And you get to choose to stay in your home or choose to go on your porch and make those choices. And just like going to the mailbox and taking that deep breath, I think it's about saying, you know what, I'm going to be very present with the fact that I am choosing to stay inside today, or that I am choosing to go on the porch for that self-care. And that may be as far as I can go today. Or those of you who can go a little bit farther to take advantage of communicating that in your family and to your spouse that says, I am feeling trapped. My anxiety is going up. And so I need 30 minutes. I need an hour to go for that walk that you're allowed to take, but you've got to communicate that with your family. And so you're probably going to hear me say a million times tonight this is the perfect time to learn how to communicate much better than maybe you've been communicating in the past. And that starts with communicating what you need and kind of negotiating with your spouse and with your kids on who's going to take turns on that self-care. And also giving your kids the words and the skills that they need to communicate when they're feeling trapped, because these kids are going to feel, Zoom calls is a very adult thing, right? Doing Zoom over, for school is going to get old real quick with the kids, even though they love screen time. And so there's going to be a point where they have to learn how to also communicate, I need to get outside, or how can I get outside? Or this is something that I'm starting to have all this energy build up in my body, and your ability to help them walk through how to communicate that.
Yeah, I love that, Corey, especially bringing in the kids and thinking about how they're feeling and how they're dealing with it. I think this would be a perfect opportunity to maybe sit down and brainstorm as a family ideas of when I am feeling, fearful, trapped, whatever it is, angry. So when I am feeling this, I will do these other things. And so coming up with ideas that when you can put a name on that emotion, here are some ways that are available to me right now in this situation to cope with it, and teach our kids that too.
Well, and I think to help with that, I'm going to post on the chat thread. There's a feelings wheel that I share with a lot of people that I work with that is so great to work with kids. It's a great thing for you to print out and put on your fridge to help your kids find. Yes, I would go with the one with all the faces if you have super small kids, but if your kids can read and you want to kind of take it to the next level, it's great, especially with boys. And it's also great with for couples too. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the thread too.
That's wonderful. And then we'll go ahead and share it in all the other places that we can share, so everybody has access to it. And you said the magic word right now. The level you two ladies actually addressed it. In these situations, where everything that is going on, and we're trying to find time to take care of ourselves. We're feeling trapped, or we're feeling anxious, we're feeling nervous, we're feeling afraid, we don't want to watch the news because it's crazy. But what happens when not just we're dealing with this, because everything that is going on, and we're dealing with a mental situation such as depression, such as anxiety, something that is adding more to our daily lives that we already have to cope or struggle with. And I think there's a lot of military spouses that can relate to that. That now, and I mean, now the level of anxiety is double probably as it used to be a month ago, because now everything else that we're adding. I think that a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about and sharing with us, the tips, the ideas, will help a lot with that. We want everybody to know as well that we have resources. If you need to speak to a professional, there is Military OneSource, and there's also the Life Caregiver with Corey Withers. There's some amazing people there that you can actually talk to, and they're covered by TRICARE. So if you feel that you are at a point that you cannot cope, that you don't know how to communicate what you need to communicate, and it's stressing you out and it's making you feel bad, please ask for help. I mean, there's a lot of military spouses that can help you with that, right, Corey?
Yeah, and let me just kind of give you like a very fast update on all of that too, because so much is changing every single day. And so Military OneSource is fantastic, and they will do over the phone counseling with you. Some of them will even do telemental health with you if you want to go through Military OneSource. And maybe that is a great resource for if you're just kind of struggling with some basic adjustment kind of stuff, you're just stressed out and you're trying to figure out how to navigate everything that's happening around you. Military OneSource is great. TRICARE obviously is fantastic for stress too, or anxiety, depression, or even some bigger issues that you might be having. And TRICARE does cover telemental health. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. They've been covering it for some time. There's been a lot of people lately that have reached out to me and said, I didn't know that they do telemental health, and they do. They will cover that provider to do telemental health. So if you have already been seeing a therapist through TRICARE, chances are they're probably moving to telemental health in their business. And so reach out to them, but TRICARE does cover that. Don't feel like you have to go somewhere face-to-face. And I promise you, that's my entire practice is all telemental health. And it is just as effective as it is face-to-face, believe it or not. If you guys are experiencing just a really nice, warm experience from our chat tonight, it's no different doing telemental health. Emotion comes through, conversation comes through great. It's just like this. This is what telemental health looks like. So, so the Life Giver directory is a directory that I created that basically just helps you more specifically find military spouses that are clinicians, or veterans that are clinicians, or maybe it's a first responder spouse that's a clinician. So it gets a little bit more specific. So if you're looking for somebody that really understands your lifestyle, these are all clinicians that do. And there's also a separate directory on my site that's a telemental health site. And that is definitely picking up lately. And so you can click on your state, whatever state that you're in right now, click on that state, and it will open up a set of listings of any clinicians that are offering telemental health to that entire state. So it doesn't matter where you live, that clinician can work with you as long as you're in that state.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You know, and one of the things talking about feelings and emotions, you know, MSAN is all about mentorship and supporting the brand new military spouses, the one that just joined, and this is the first thing they get to see. Something that is happening since like 3 weeks ago is that new military spouses are not able to go to graduations, basic training, any kind of graduations. So this is something that their hearts got broken so fast from seeing their spouse, significant other, or fiance leave to basic training, and hoping and counting down the days for the 8 weeks or 12 weeks to go and see him graduate. And then now, boom, they won't be able to see him. They don't even know when they're going to see him again, because the active duty member is continuing to serve and keep moving. The spouse is not able to move. There's no orders. They have no support in their area because probably they don't live close to an installation. They don't know who to call. They don't know the resources, the benefits. And on the other side too, new spouses that are dealing with a very first deployment. We're counting down the days. My spouse is coming home in a week, and then boom, now we don't know when they're coming back. So in those two situations, I think that the feelings will be very much the same. Their hearts are broken. Now they don't even know what's happening next. What am I gonna do? Are they by themselves at another installation? Probably they're brand new there and their spouse is deployed, and now they cannot even leave the installation because it's not safe to travel. What kind of guidance or advice do you tell those new military spouses that are going through just that?
Well, I love what Corey said about the 2 weeks. Figure out an amount of time that you want to give yourself to grieve, because it's a disappointment and you had this beautiful occasion that you were looking forward to, and it hurts to have it taken away. So give yourself the opportunity to feel those feelings. Maybe if there's somebody else in the same situation, you can talk about it with them because they're going through it at exactly the same time. So, when you can talk about it, it takes some of the power away a little bit, helps you feel better. And then once you've grieved, figure out how you're going to celebrate and make it special when you're reunited again. Because maybe you weren't able to be at the graduation, but how can you together as a couple still acknowledge that milestone? And then you have something to look forward to. You don't know when it's going to be. You might not even know where it's going to be, but you have something that you want to do together.
I love that. And that was one of the things that I was going to say too, Kimberly, is, we're talking about mentoring here, brand new spouses. And I absolutely agree with your feelings are real about this, and it's okay for you to have them and express them appropriately, right? Express them and process through them, that you need that time to sit in that pocket of grief and really deal with it. So us saying, then think about celebrating is not a way to minimize those feelings, but it's kind of like the next step of planning that forward. And so I agree with what she's saying completely. And so when I think about mentoring and I think about, I think everybody, the four of us here, we probably would put ourselves in that category. We didn't realize we arrived, but we kind of are probably in that category of seasoned spouse at this point. And so hear this from a mentoring heart. Like if I put my mentoring hat on, my military spouse hat, not my counselor hat, right? And that is, life does have disappointments in general, but as a military family, you will experience times of uncertainty or times when dates get pushed back, or when you really hoped that you were going to get to experience Christmas together and then you didn't, or you really were hoping to go home for that family reunion and now you can't. There's these there is experiences that we will have and that we all have gone through, or we've experienced that disappointment. And I hope that that gives those of you who are new the permission to talk to your mentors and talk about that grief and share that with them, and let your mentors share the times when they've had disappointments too, because we've all experienced them. And some of us are still experiencing them now. We probably all had, plans for spring break. I know we did, that we had to cancel, and so we're not going to get to go home and see family before we PCS, and I don't know when we're going to go see family again. And that's disappointing. And it's disappointing to the external family members too. So everybody has had those feelings and is going through some level of that with you, and you're not alone in that. And so I think it's okay. And I think it's also okay for us to go from a mentoring perspective. You're going to be okay, and you are going to get to a place where you do get to celebrate that with everybody. And you are going to get to a place where you're going to look back. It's kind of like those of you, because I know we've got some really young new spouses, but those of you who've graduated high school, maybe even graduated college, you remember that like anticipation of that day when you're going to walk across the stage, and then it comes and then it goes. And then you find yourself 2 weeks later going, it's already over, right? It's like the date has come and gone. And I think this is the same thing we have to keep in mind, that this quarantine and the season that we're going through, it will come and it will go. And we will be able to look back and say, we made it through it. And we kind of hopefully established some new goals for ourselves in the middle of it. So I think I just want to say, from a mentoring perspective, it feels really hard to go through this right now. And I don't want it all to come across like it's not hard for me too. Like it's hard for all of us to stretch during this time. But I think that what I have learned as a military spouse is that every time I had something delayed, or every time that there was uncertainty, which I hate, I don't do well with uncertainty. I'll be honest. I don't do well with having to adapt to every PCS. I kind of have a little meltdown every time still, right? And so that's normal too, I think, for some of you, maybe not all of you, but it is for me. I will say that every time I've gone through that disappointment, that little bit of stretching that I went through that was really painful and hard and difficult and stretched me in ways that I didn't think on, especially when the kids were tiny. Like I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get through the day, right? Just one more day like this. And then you do. And then you get through another day, right? And then you look back and you realize all of that stretching that you went through has built something beautiful in you, in your character, that you are stronger by the end of it, that you are more capable to handle difficult things than you ever thought possible. And so I just want to encourage you that there is great purpose that can come out of this disappointment and this grief, and great purpose can come out of this time, even if it's your deployment is being extended. That means you are being stretched too, and being asked to stretch in ways that you weren't expecting. But I have a feeling you're going to look back when that day comes and goes, and you're going to look back on it and say, you know what, that was really hard, but I wouldn't trade what it brought up in me and what it taught something about me, or what I learned about myself. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
And it's going to make us stronger. I'm sorry, Casey. It's going to make us stronger, and not to scare anybody, but our lifestyle, there's a lot of disappointments. In our lifestyle, there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot of unexpected things at the last minute. And no matter how many plans you have ready to go, at the very end, maybe you're going to have to go with something else that was not even in your plans. And every single time we go through that, it's making us stronger. Kind of like what Corey and Kimberly are saying, we're learning something different. And I think that this time is a little bit more challenging, but probably we're going to be even stronger than the other experiences that we had before. So, yeah.
I think it's a good time for us to kind of talk about what mentorship looks like for us here, because we are getting some questions coming in about mentoring and kind of what we do. So one of the things that we do well, and we put our name on it, we coin it, we mentor new military spouses, right?
We claim
and now, if you guys have been following us for the last week now, we've opened our program to military spouses virtually, because we're not briefing at installations, right? So if you are a military spouse looking for mentorship, you go over to our official website, www.militaryspouseadvocacynetwork.org. You click on the new spouse page, you're going to be directed to a survey. This survey for us kind of asks the nitty gritty. We ask who you are, where you are, what branch your service members attached to, and we hand pair behind the scenes on paper, not kidding, it's real life. We hand pair new military spouses to seasoned spouse mentors, right? And our seasoned spouse mentors cover the entire lifestyle. We talk about everything. And I'm a little biased because I started out as a mentor with the program, but our mentors are amazing. They've been through so many different things. And even right now, where nothing is open on our installations, right? We are not walking into a family readiness center. We're likely not going to see MFLAC or getting resources from anything right now. Nothing's there. Mm-hmm. The connections our mentors have, the resources that we provide through MSAN and our partners like Independent and the Life Giver Directory, these resources, they're here. And we're all here now, and we're in the now, and we're in that moment because we have to be. We have no option. We have to survive this together, because together our whole world makes just a little more sense, even if it didn't make sense 5 minutes ago. So if you do need a mentor, please go to our website. Please take our survey. I will also post a link to the survey in the chat. That way you can just go ahead and pop and take that survey. I promise our mentors are amazing. And I know that the work our mentors do is amazing. And I know our partners are vetted. And I mean, you guys are the best of the best for us. So like I said, I think if we're gonna mentor, let's do it. And we do it right. We train our mentors, and we do connect when the world opens back up. And we're done with quarantine and stay at home orders and sheltering in place, our mentors connect to these official resources. You know, we're going to connect you to a ombudsman of some sort for whatever branch you're associated with. We're going to connect you to yeah, we're going to connect with everything. We love the Key Spouse program. We love FRGs. We speak Airman Family Readiness Centers and ACSs and MWRs. We speak all the things because we have mentors of all branches, and that includes our National Guard and our Reserve friends too. We have them all. So definitely.
Well, and I just want to say there's no way that I could have gotten through the most difficult, challenging seasons of my military spouse experience to date without a mentor. You know, and that spouse even just reached out to me yesterday to just kind of check in and see how our family was doing. Like, having a mentor in your life, a military spouse mentor that understands what you've gone through, that is going through the same experience at the same time with you too, right? That can point you to those resources or just get on the phone with you and just kind of say, I know, this is really hard and we're going to get through it together, means the world. And so if you don't have a mentor, even if you think that you don't, but you just need somebody who's walked this road before, as maybe just even a year or more ahead of you, it's totally worth it. Just from a personal growth place, you would be surprised how that kind of conversation can become that kind of self-care that you need. Community is a huge component of self-care. We think self-care is often something we do by ourselves, but like Kimberly was talking about, like doing a yoga class with other people and having somebody instruct you, or going for that walk or having that phone call. A lot of times self-care is with somebody else, not just by ourselves.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's really important too, to know that you are entitled to your own hard, because it's really easy to kind of disqualify what we're feeling because somebody else has it harder. Like, I'm not entitled to this. I should be so thankful. Somebody else is dealing with something else, but it's okay for things to feel hard for you, and it's okay for you to admit that to somebody else. And at the same time, recognize that other people are entitled to their own hard too, so that when they reach out to you, you can empathize rather than being in your head like, what are they talking about? You know, I have it harder than they do. But to be a friend to them and let them express what's going on with them. It's really important on both sides, because so many times when I talk to people, they disqualify how they're feeling. They say, oh, you know, I know such and so has it like this, or I know you have it like this, and I don't feel entitled to express what's going on with me. But if you hold it inside, it's going to fester. You got to let it out, and you have to have it be real for you so that then you can address those pain points. Because if you never let it be valid, then you're not ever going to move forward.
I agree with that. And before we go to the comments or the questions that we have, because there's a lot of activity, which is amazing. This is what this is all about. Everybody sharing and expressing how they feel. One of the things about mentorship is what you were talking about, Corey. That's what it is. It's all about building relationships. I want our mentees and those they need a mentor right now to know that not because MSAN is an official nonprofit organization, that doesn't mean that your mentor is gonna be someone that is just on paper or someone that is just gonna give you a link for you to go and click somewhere else. Our mentors are building relationships with our mentees. Not too long ago, we had a mentor that actually stopped on her way. She was on her way to Florida, and she stopped to meet her mentee. And they actually had a video. We got to see the video, and there were hugs, and there were this amazing relationship between the mentee. That's what MSAN is doing. And that's how we're changing how you get to experience a lifestyle, because we are here for you. We're building relationships. So don't let the fact that MSAN is a nonprofit organization scare you thinking that we are too official, or that we're gonna go and talk to somebody's commander, somebody's active duty member. We don't do any of that. The only reason why we are a nonprofit organization is because that was the only way I could do this. I needed amazing people around me to help me share an idea. But if it was possible for us to do it without a big name, we will be doing exactly what we do. So don't worry about the name. Don't worry, because we're a nonprofit. The relationships that we are building are just amazing, and we want you to be part of this. So Casey, what do we have? Corey, because I know you're monitoring too.
Man, we've got a lot of activity. I think, I mean, it's just amazing to see so many conversations happening right now. You've got a lot going on in here. We've got people expressing the feeling that we should, how do you handle feeling bad when others are not taking this as serious as you are? Like, how do we handle that? You know, we see it on the news and on social media all the time. You guys, everybody stay home, staying home stays like, how do you handle feeling frustrated or angry when you see somebody down the street having a big block party, or, you know, dragging all their kids to the grocery store when we've been told not to? How do we handle that? That's one that's in here.
So, you know, I think I'm going to put on my mentoring hat for this one, if it's okay.
You can use all my hats you want, Corey. You're good.
Okay.
So many hats. It's great.
So many hats. So, you know, a couple of thoughts on that. And part of it is because I'm living on post right now. And, you know, we just had our commander do a Facebook town hall, and they were addressing kind of this same kind of idea. You know, that some people are doing the best that they can to be responsible and staying inside, and the frustration when you have a neighbor or you have people down the street that aren't doing the same thing, you know. And I think that if I were to put on my mentoring hat, I would say, especially to those that are new to the military lifestyle, that there is a level of etiquette within the military lifestyle that I would just be careful to not become the person that is schooling or correcting people, especially in your neighborhood, because it can just cause some drama that's not necessary. And you don't necessarily have to be that person unless you've been given the role of like the neighborhood mayor or the person that's been actually asked to be that person. And, you know, you really want to, you know, the place of frustration is really wanting everybody to work together. And there's better ways of getting everybody on board together. And sometimes that means just you doing the right thing and letting other people take care of those that aren't doing the right thing. And sometimes it is being that mentor in the neighborhood that says, hey, you know, we probably, you know, if it's right for you, and if you're that village mayor, or if you're that seasoned spouse that can do it maybe and knows a little bit of the etiquette on how to say such things. But I would just caution some of you on whether or not you vocalize that, just because right now we need to pull together and not necessarily start drama or create problems, especially where you're at. Because at the end of this, we need to have a community that's serving each other, that is doing life together, and that you've got a neighborhood of people that when you need that help or that support, that you can ask the neighborhood for that support. And so sometimes it's just better to just kind of take care of yourself and not worry about other people. But I will say that it doesn't mean that we're not all frustrated. And I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm hearing from some of the spouses and, you know, in my little circle in my neighborhood, that a lot of the serving spouses are very frustrated. They have a lot of reason to be frustrated. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's like Facebook threads going around here on posts of like, who's going to cut my husband's hair? And I'm like, let it go straight special forces, like let it just grow out, you know. But everybody's stressing out because they can't cut their hair, you know, and that's, everybody's kind of out of their normal. And so I think your serving spouses are definitely going to be stressed as well, and frustrated, and maybe even frustrated at the neighbors too, because everybody's trying to be protective. So I would just say it's okay to be frustrated. Talk with your spouse about that. Talk with somebody that is a safe person that you can kind of talk about it, that it's not going to go outside of that friendship or outside of that circle, that it's not going to be taken as gossip, that it's more so just expressing that concern. And then I would just say it's really hard to do it, but just model what right looks like. Like that's really what matters in the end, is just model what right looks like. People will see you as that person that's trying to do the right thing, rather than seeing the person or being the person that's trying to fix it all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Corey, especially people who are new to the military and they don't know kind of the etiquette of how things work in the neighborhood and on post or on base. And you're so spot on. And I think we have to keep things under our circle of control. You know, what is in my area of control? And to me, that includes my parents. You know, we were kind of early adopters with this thing. And so I was on the phone with my parents, telling them what to do, because that's my sphere of influence. And then also modeling, you know, setting a good example for people. And if they're paying attention, maybe they'll choose to follow, maybe they'll choose not to, but at least knowing that I'm doing the right thing and taking care of my family.
Well, and if I can just respond, because I see a couple people making comments on trying to figure out, like, when do I say something and when do I speak the truth and how do you do that? And so if I can just respond to that a little bit, I think, you know, in our house, even today with our teenager, somehow over various points of the day, because these days are getting really long. I don't know about you guys, but one of the topics we were talking about today was what righteous indignation feels like. And I think that is the real frustration. If we get to the root of what it is that we're frustrated about, we're not frustrated at that neighbor necessarily. We're not frustrated at the block party. If anything, we're probably feeling like, I wish I could do that. And that's frustrating because they're having a good time. And that's what I wish I could be doing, but I'm a rule follower. Right? I'm a rule follower and they're breaking the rules, and it sure sounds really good to break the rules right now. But I think that part of it is that, but I think it's also frustration at seeing people do what feels like it's the wrong thing. And I think that that's the bigger question we have to ask ourselves is, why is that bothering me? And what can I do about it? And really wrestle with, who am I going to be in this world when I see people doing the wrong thing? And what is my role in that? And do I have a role in it? And so there's nothing wrong with being frustrated at that, because you're frustrated at something that's very right? You're frustrated at something that is good. You're frustrated that that someone is doing is wrong. And then you're frustrated with that. That's a good feeling for you to have. And ordinarily in the world, we would want to go out and kind of have some level of justice and try to be the person that brings everybody together. And this is what right looks like. And everybody's do the right thing, because don't we all have the same values? You know, and maybe normally we could do that, but this is just a very strange time. And so just know, if you are going to be that person, then maybe you only do it with people that you know, that you can have maybe a sense of humor with that. And then they understand your personality. Like I noticed some people were saying, that's just my personality. I speak my mind. And so if you're maybe saying something to somebody that knows that about you, that can kind of take it with a grain of salt, maybe you have a little bit of humor behind it too, I think it's going to go over a lot better. But for the most part, I would say take a look at what's really frustrating you and why, and ask yourself, take that energy to ask yourself the deeper question of, what do I do in myself when I find myself frustrated at the world when people are not doing the right thing? And I think if you really take the energy there instead, you're going to learn so much more about yourself and be far more prepared to do something really amazing in the world when all of this is done.
I'm smiling because you said laugh through it. I have a weird sense of humor anyway, and I've been laughing through this entire thing. So in full disclosure and like total real conversationist, I suffer from extreme anxiety. And my anxiety is, I mean, the anxiety that normal people are feeling right now is about mine on a normal day. And right now it's about 1,000 times higher, because I do have a grandma that lives with me, and I had a premature child, and I am over here like, whew. Anyway, so I have laughed my way through this. And while this is not a fun time whatsoever, laughing through this for me has just made everything better. In that moment, in that 5 minutes of somebody has sent a funny picture in a group chat to me and I have laughed hysterically, or I have sent the same ones and everybody else has laughed, or we had a comment about somebody saying they just needed toilet paper. Christy, I love you because we all feel you there. Being able to laugh through this is just, I mean, laughter alone makes everything just a little bit better. But laughing through this, while not making light of the situation, because it is a crazy, nasty situation, laughing through this has saved me so much stress and so much anxiety as it could do. I mean, realistically, and I know we're seeing a lot of anxiety posts now.
Yeah.
A lot of us do struggle with it, right?
And another thing that causes anxiety, and before I go into that, we have 2 gift cards to give away in 2 MSAN t-shirts. So I'm gonna post the links right now for the winners. They can pick one of them. So Casey will be helping us with that in just a minute because we're pretty much running out of time.
Yep.
But talking about all this stuff that causes anxiety, something that I'm also seeing in the comments and that I think most of us can relate to is the anxiety and frustration that we are getting from our own military community, but when it comes to leadership. I mean, because we don't know what's going on, because they don't understand our situation, because they're dealing with so much. I mean, I don't want to blame anybody, and I don't want to dismiss anybody's feelings with whatever experience they're going through. I am pretty sure that right now our leaders are trying even to wonder how to start their new lifestyle at home and having to lead an entire group of active duty members and having to make sure their families are taken care of. So I'm pretty sure that not everybody is probably going to make the right decisions, or what we think are not the right decisions. Probably we're all going to see it in a different way. Do you guys have any advice or anything that we can share with other spouses that are dealing with that frustration towards military leaders right now?
Kimberly, you want to go first on that?
I think that this is relevant at so many levels because we have many levels of leaders in our communities, right? We have our military leaders, we have the state governors, we have people all the way on up to the top. And it's really easy to try to play armchair quarterback, right? If I were in charge, I would do it this way. And it's really hard because they're making decisions and we don't get to hear the whole thought process. We don't know all of the things that they're taking into account to make their decisions. And I wish that there would be more communication, but then I think, okay, if they told us every single thing that they were considering, those things might cause a lot of anxiety for people. So that's probably why they're not making all these things public. And so I think we just need to have some patience and know that everybody's doing the best they can. This is a new situation for everybody. And they want to take care of people. And we have to believe that they have our best interests at heart, even if we don't understand the decisions or the communication. It's hard. I don't know if you have anything better than that, Corey.
I was thinking the same thing. I think giving grace and patience, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. My husband says I do that too much. He says I need to get more angry more often. But I like to think that there's things that I don't know, and that people are doing the best that they can. And for me, that's just a little bit easier of a way to walk through life. But I think I'll also say that, and this is kind of a high level contextual answer, but I think we need to remember where we've come from in the fact that we're dealing with something that we've never dealt with before. And what I mean by that is all of us, military spouses and service members, have been habitually trained over time on how to live this lifestyle and work within the system that we have. And so as military spouses, we are used to things going a certain way, even though it's a life of chaos and uncertainty. We have been habitually trained on what to expect and what to do next. And this is PCS season, right? We just have been habitually trained on this is what we know, right? And I think service members, including our leadership, have been habitually trained over time, even without them knowing it, that this is how you do what you do. And this is the order in which you do it. And this is who you go to and the chain of command and all of that. And so one of the things that I've been seeing from leaders is some of the high up leaders are trying to give autonomy, correctly so, to those that are like, let's say your mid-level leaders are trying to say, hey, commanders, you're the ones with boots on the ground. Make the decision that you feel like is best for where you are and what your families are going through. And that's probably the right thing for them to do at some stage of this crisis. And I'm also seeing those mid-level leaders that are going, I'm trying the best I can to make this decision, but I really need a high up leader to tell me what to do. And so they're waiting for their orders from somebody high up. And so what you end up having, and that's how they've been habitually trained over time, this is how you do the right thing. This is how you follow orders. Here's how you get orders, and here's how you wait on orders, and here's how you make decisions, right? So this is what they're used to. And so I think there's a little bit sometimes of some waiting and taking things taking a little bit longer than we're used to. But I hope that you hear that as they're trying to be respectful of each other and make sure that people lead well. And so I think when it's really, really important, those high up leaders are going to make those calls. And I think that when something's really, really important, we have to trust our local leaders to make those good calls. And in the meantime, the best thing that we can do as military spouses is support your serving spouse. And I don't mean that they are more important than you. Everybody has value, right? Your kids have value, you have value, and so does your serving spouse. And so sometimes the best thing that you can do is be that supportive person to your serving spouse who's struggling within that chain of command, right? And just kind of do what we've already said tonight, which is, I understand this is really hard. And I know it feels like you feel powerless, and so do I feel powerless too. And we're going to support each other through this powerlessness. And let's think about like what Kim said, as far as what do you have control over? I've had that conversation with my husband. What do you have control over? Who can you be within your sphere that will make you feel like you have a place where you can make a difference? And he's likewise said the same things to me. Like, when I feel out of control, what do you have control over? So I think, just to echo what Kimberly is saying, is just to have that patience and grace, that this is new territory for everybody and we're all doing the best we can.
You know, and I think it also fits really good what you said earlier, Corey, about that maybe we're not that frustrated at leadership. We're so frustrated at other things.
Yes.
But it's just leadership that we are just like, oh, yeah, they're not doing something specific. So we can actually point that stress or frustration towards someone. Right. So maybe a lot of the frustration that everybody's dealing with is making things more complicated for everybody. So yeah, I agree. Patience and flexibility.
You can't file an ICE complaint to life, right? Like, it's only leadership. So it's like, well, that's one thing we could do.
Yeah, you know,
but it's really life.
You know, it kind of like what you do with your kids when they get frustrated, or when they're feeling sad or something. What do? You try to redirect that emotion so they can kind of forget about it. They get distracted. Do the same with yourself. If you're feeling frustrated, redirect that energy to something else. That can be reading a book, that can be joining MSAN in our chats, or anything that you can think of that will redirect that energy that is making you frustrated. So I know Casey has the winners, so that's great.
I have some winners. I'm really excited. So, you guys, we're really glad and thankful for everybody who's been a part of tonight's conversation, for everybody who's going to join us as we continue this series and segment, and keep our conversations really moving. So part of tonight's giveaway are some gift cards, and I've put everybody's name that's commented and joined us tonight in a little website thingy-mabob that auto-populates some names. And we have 2 gift card winners. So our 2 gift card winners are Stephanie Johnson and Christy Lynn. If you guys just message me, I'll get email addresses and we'll get you guys in contact. It's easier. I've already commented on everything. Plus, my name's kind of everywhere with us as an organization right now. And then we have 2 t-shirts. So I'm
about to post the links.
Oh yes, I have to post those too here in just a little bit. I promise.
And you guys can purchase a shirt as well. It is a fundraiser that we're having now. But yeah, right now we have 2 winners.
If you guys buy one of these shirts, if you guys wear your shirt, tag us on tag us on social media. Use the hashtag MSANFam, because that's what we are here. We're one big fam. So our 2 shirt winners are Bryce I'm a little happy about that because I love Bryce. Bryce, you're such an awesome part of our community. No one's made me laugh.
He's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, Bryce, you're pretty awesome, Bryce. And Meredith, um, I'll tag you here in a second. That way we make sure it's the right Meredith. So, like I said, you guys, if you're a winner, and I'll tag everybody's names here in a minute, and I'll make sure everybody's good to go. Just shoot me a message, and we'll get everybody connected for the winning stuffs. That thing. Oh,
You know,
I just lost it all. I've had way too much coffee because I hate coffee, and I'm
it's
sitting.
so good. It's so good. You know, I wish that we had more time. And this is a point of this things, to have actual conversations and have a good time. Thank you so much, Corey. Thank you so much, Kim, Independent, and Life Caregiver Directory for the partnership and for always supporting our community.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to give your last, advice or anything that you want to share with the people that are watching us right now?
I think I would just say, please, please, please find those times to take care of yourself. This is going to feel like a marathon in a lot of ways. And so I think we're really at risk in our spouse community. We're not doing a good job taking care of ourselves anyways. And so right now, when you've got so much more happening in your homes and feeling responsible for all of it, I'm really worried about our spouse community, not only taking less care of themselves, but the conflict that can happen in your home so easily when you haven't been taking care of yourself. And so I'm just going to say, take those walks. You know what? Maybe you're just expecting a lot of mail and you need to go many times to the mailbox. But there's nothing wrong with taking a deep breath. There's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself and communicating that you need it. Call healthy timeouts in your marriage if things get heated, or you've just been spending too much time together, you're stepping on each other's toes. We didn't even get to talk about like how weird that is. And I just want to normalize that you're spending more time with your spouse than you ever have. And so that's okay for that to feel strange. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with your marriage. So just learn those healthy techniques to just call a timeout and go to your kind of separate corners until you cool off, and then can re-engage the conversation and reach out for help. Contact your mentor, get a counselor. There's no shame in that, but just be very self-aware in what you need to make sure you communicate it.
And I would like to remind you that your wellness matters. You may be taking care of 1,000,001 things right now, but you matter too. So take this time to get to know yourself really well. What are your triggers? So is watching the news constantly all day long, or even at night, making you feel upset? Maybe you read the news instead, because it's a lot less emotional. You don't have that audible drama that happens on TV. Or, you know, what if it's not having the space that you need? Like Corey said, go out and sit in the backyard, sit on your front steps, go to the mailbox, make your world a little bit bigger in that way. What are your triggers? What's making you feel bad? And what can you do about it? And on the other side of the coin, what makes you feel really great? What brings you joy? What makes you feel at peace? And make sure that you invite that into your day every single day. And also, I would encourage you to figure out a way to make your weekends special, because all of our days can start to look the same, the whole Groundhog Day thing, and one day blends into another, and you're just in this endless cycle. So talk to your family and see, you know, what can we do? What are some new traditions that we can make to make sure that we have something to look forward to at the end of every week?
Love that.
Wonderful. That's great. Casey, you have something to say?
No, I really, first off, thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody who's watching. Thank you to all of you for just for just giving together and being together. I definitely encourage everybody to request an MSAN mentor. I know there's like 5 different times where our link now has been posted. Yeah, the shirt fundraiser links have been posted because Bernice is amazing and I slacked a little on my job tonight. Just throwing that out there. But because we're all here. MSAN is not going anywhere. We're 100% virtual. It's kind of what we do. So somebody's always around on our end if you guys do need anything. And somebody is really always around on our end. We're making sure that we're bringing the most up-to-date information that we can bring all the time. And we appreciate everybody's support and love from our partners and our sponsors and our mentors and our community in general.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say, well, once again, I want to thank you, ladies, for being with us, for your knowledge, for empowering us to look the bright side of everything that we're going through, for teaching us how to overcome our feelings and to be okay and comfortable to express those feelings. Thank you so much for giving us that space for us to express how we feel, and for all the spouses that are watching us. This is the reasons why we're doing this, because we want to show you what our community is all about, how we have each other's back, and how we also have a lot of military spouses that are experts, and they can come and show us things, and they can come and teach us things. I wish this chat would have been longer. Maybe this is just a sign that we need to have a part 2 so we can cover all the other topics that we didn't get to address. But like I said, you guys are not alone. We're all in this together. We're all gonna have our moments, and it's okay. But when you have those moments, reach out, talk to someone. Don't deal with it on your own. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much, Corey. Casey, thank you, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Please be safe.
You guys will be back next Thursday. We're coming back with another conversation around the table next Thursday right here. If you're in the New Spouse Forum, we're also live for coffee chats and Talk It Over Thursdays. You guys, yes.
We're all over the place.
We're everywhere.
Thank you, Bernice and Casey. You guys have been wonderful. And thank you for what you're doing in our community. It's really awesome. And so I'm huge fans of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being awesome. Bye.